Hello everyone, welcome to Southern Utah Interview. My name is Nic Chamberlain, and today we have the great privilege of being here with Representative Brad Last from District 71 of the Utah House of Representatives. Representative Last, thank you for being with us today, and it is definitely our pleasure that you've chosen to meet with us. During this legislative session, there was a revision made to the Utah state liquor laws. Did you feel that the liquor laws were quite archaic before?
I think that the liquor laws probably were due for some revision, for some changing. Of course, Governor Huntsman, when he became governor, or even when he was running for governor, one of his platform issues was economic development. And one area of economic development, as I alluded to before, is tourism. And we, of course, have a beautiful state, and we have national parks that people like to come here to see. And the ski industry, of course, is a thriving industry in the state and brings a lot of people and a lot of money to the state. And a lot of the people that come here, most of the people that come here are coming from other areas where the alcohol laws are somewhat different. At least when you go into a restaurant, it's easy to get alcohol. If you want to go into a club at night, it's easy to go into a club and sit at a bar and get mixed drinks. And in Utah, it's been somewhat difficult. And if we're going to really try to build tourism, then I think we need to have good strong laws, but at least make it possible for people to get alcoholic beverages when they go to restaurants or when they go to a bar at night. We continue to strengthen the laws that deal with drunk driving or driving under the influence, and I think that's appropriate as well. I mean, if people want to consume alcohol, I guess that's their business, but when their consumption of alcohol starts to affect other people and their safety, then that's when we really need to step in as a government and take action. And along with the other revisions to the alcohol laws, we have done and continue to do that as well, and I think that's appropriate.
Do you believe it's legitimate for, I guess, the more conservative portion of the population to fear that if we will relax one area of moralistic laws for economic reasons, that we start on a slippery slope towards doing that towards other things, such as drug laws, the adult industry, things like that? Is that a legitimate fear for the future?
Yeah, I think that's a legitimate fear. And as a legislator, I can tell you that sometimes you don't quite know where the line is, what exactly we should do. And while Utah gets criticized, probably because of the large LDS population, we get criticized for the alcohol laws. There's other places in the country that are much more conservative than we are. I think there's places in North Carolina where you can't buy alcohol on Sunday and so forth. So everybody has their idea about how this ought to be handled. And again, I think we have to come to accept that people are going to make certain choices in their lives. And many years ago, we had a constitutional amendment, and we did away with alcohol. We prohibited alcohol, and everybody knows how well that went. It created an entire black market that was just completely out of control, and so that was repealed. People are going to consume alcohol. It's something that I've never done and never will do. For most people that grow up in other parts of the world, it is a very key part of their social involvement, and I think we need to accept that and at least make it available to them in a reasonable way, if we expect them to come here and spend their money and help develop our economy.
Speaking of issues with moral implications, there was an advocacy group during this legislative session that attempted an initiative called the Common Ground Initiative, I believe it was, which would have given gay couples rights in inheritance, hospital visits, and I believe even provisions of it went towards something like a civil union equivalent in Utah. Why do you think that initiative was pulled before it reached ultimate fruition?
Yeah, before it reached the floor debate. Well, this obviously was a very big issue in the legislature this year, and much like other areas of the country, the gay and lesbian community, and let's face it, that's what it is attempting to be recognized in many different ways. And many of us in Utah, and I think other places, have concerns about what that means to the traditional family. Now, in my personal case, and I think the case of many Utah legislators, we feel very strongly about what family means. To some of us, it goes back to theology, our theological beliefs, our religious beliefs. But even beyond that, it's just something that we as a society feel very strongly about. And this whole issue of marriage, I mean, years ago, we decided that we were going to recognize marriage in our society for a number of reasons. Perpetuation of the species is one of them. And we recognize marriage, we give some tax benefits for marriage, and really there's a biological basis. I mean, we recognize the difference between men and women and the importance of unions of men and women, if I can say it that way, of marriages, so that we can support families, so we can support children, so we can bring them up in an environment which we believe is the most healthy for them. And the gay and lesbian community is trying to obtain recognition in a number of ways, as we mentioned. And frankly, the question for many of us is, what does that mean to the traditional family? What do we continue to chip away at the value of the traditional family by giving recognition to these other groups? And what will the long-term effects on our society be? Frankly, I think that they could be serious, and me and many of my colleagues just didn't support those issues. And so while they came out with a lot of fanfare, a lot of media coverage, when it came right down to it, they got into the committees and they never did make it out of the committees to the floor. So I think you'll continue to see that kind of thing happening year after year, probably as long as I'm in the legislature. They may give it a rest from time to time, but I just think we're going to see constant pressure like that to recognize these and other groups. And for me, it is a moral issue, and at least as long as I'm there, I'll continue to fight against recognition of those kind of groups. Excuse me.
Short of recognizing a homosexual person's right to marry, do you really believe that granting them minor privileges such as hospital visits, wrongful death suit privileges, and inheritance rights is the beginning of that slippery slope towards marriage?
Yes, I do. Right now, if somebody really wants to give another person those kind of rights, even gay and lesbian couples, they can do it. Now, they have to jump through a few more hoops, granted. We don't give them automatic inheritance rights, for example, like we do with a married couple. But if they really want someone to inherit everything that they own when they die, there's a pretty easy way to do it. There's legal, contractual ways that they can do that in this country. And so if that were not possible, I guess I would feel differently about it. But it's just not that hard. And that's one of the frustrating things to me when they can take the steps to make sure that those kinds of things are covered. They're not happy with that. They want to be recognized just like a man and a woman who are married are.
While we are allowing heterosexual couples to take advantage of the laws of intestacy, should they not take care of their affairs well enough to write up a will or a trust, are we creating a classification of, I suppose, individuals with lower rights when we require them to be more organized than a heterosexual?
Well, again, I guess it just comes down to this issue of are we going to recognize this group of people and put them in the same category as men and women who marry and have families? And I guess on the one hand you could say that we are creating a different class of people, but again, the history of the United States is we have recognized married couples for a number of reasons that I think are very valid reasons, and I just don't think that gay and lesbian couples need to be given those same rights. I mean, who's to say I mean, how do we recognize, how do we know? I mean, you could have two roommates, two boys or two girls living together in college, and I mean, how do we know? I mean, should they be given these rights or not? I don't know. With a man and a woman, it's fairly easy to see, but with gay and lesbian couples, it's a little more difficult. And again, you talk about the slippery slope. I don't think these people are dangerous necessarily, but I think recognizing those kind of groups in the ways that they want to be recognized is potentially dangerous.